Alright. Today's project. This guy. Right there. See him? That's what they call a, I forget the name of this fucking thing. I'll get it later. But it's bad. It's, I won't get it later, but right there. It's not incredibly bad, but there's enough play in there to know that it's bad. Trust me. Okay, the center link bearing, carrier bearing. First thing I've done, I hit these bolts with some penetrating oil. Pretty sure those ones, if I get those out first, may or may not loosen it up enough to get it out. I hit these two. I don't know if those gotta come out yet. Find out, I'll let you know. And then this one up here by the transfer case. Get those bolts all lubed up. Get ready to take them out. I start right here in the middle. That's the easiest one to get out. And let you know if that's all that has to come out. Okay, got her to this point. There's the rear portion of the drive shaft. The U-joints right there. Going back. There's the rear axle. There's the center part. Just ahead of that. There's the bearing. Now I'm switching out. And as you can see, I got it off the U-joints on this end. But it doesn't, front drive shaft does not pull out from the transfer case, as far as I can tell. I didn't really pull on it too hard, but I'm figuring to get those other bolts out with the star heads, and that'll help me get the front drive shaft out. It's a lot smaller and easier to wield once I get it out of here. And let you know how that goes. Alright, this is where I'm at. I started taking these bolts out, the star bolts off this front part of the drive shaft. It goes into the transfer case right here to get at that bad boy right there. In order to do this, I had to put some blocks behind the wheels because the drive shaft's off, and keeping it in park won't keep it from rolling without the drive shaft connected, obviously. So what I've had to do to be able to crank on those bolts is put it in neutral, take a bolt out or two at a time, or actually put it in neutral to spin it to get access to these, and then put it back in park so it doesn't rotate, and I can torque on these bolts to get them out without the drive shaft spinning. I got one more to get at, so I'm gonna go put it in neutral, spin that one to the bottom where I can access it, put it back in park, crank on that last bolt, and hopefully have the drive shaft in my hand. Okay, I did exactly what I told you I was going to do. I put it neutral. I was able to spin the drive shaft, get that bolt at the bottom here where I can access it. Let's see if I can loosen this bad boy with one hand. Down there. You can see the drive shaft ain't gonna move when I crank on it. Kind of hard to get leverage with one hand here. I'm trying, let's see. Get the old redneck breaker bar going here. There it goes. Right. Now we can get it off. Alright, I need 2 hands for the rest of this one. Okay, this is where I'm at about an hour later. As you can see, I got the drive shaft off the car, off the truck. I have it in the vise. I've been having to use an impact to get the son of a bitch and bolt out. This cheap electric one down here could not handle it. Of course, it's a little bit wore out, but that's the end of that piece of shit. But we got this one. Alright, as you can see, I got the gear puller on there. It's on there kind of haphazardly, but it's not on so tight that it's not working, so just gonna go with it. I mean, if it works, right? Alright, look, this is where we're at so far. I got this thing out of there. Took that off the outside. Seemed to come off fairly easy once the glue broke. Used the puller on it at first, and it seemed to loosen it up, and then it came off with a little persuasion. Now, to get to the bearing itself, I had to, I took a grinder, metal cutting blade, and put a little, sliced a groove in it. Got down so far, I didn't want to nick the drive shaft itself. I got in there good enough and got a chisel in there and split it right open like that. So now I'll get that off the outside, and I will be able to get the gear puller right onto the bearing after I get this thing off. Okay, so this is where I'm at. Got this off, ended up cutting it in 2 pieces. Just seemed to be easier that way. And I'm assuming this is some sort of vibration mount. And then here we are, onto the gear. Got the puller on it. It's in the vise. Should come right off, right? Okay. Success. One thing I found when you use one of these, when you got it on there, if it gets to a point where it don't turn anymore, if you just tap it around the outside, just tap the end of these hooks, and well, here's something unexpected. I couldn't find a decent piece of pipe to fit over the end of the spline and line up perfectly with that bearing in the middle here, you know, so I didn't ruin the seal. So I found a piece of PVC. Cut it nice and flat on one end, put it up in there, tapped it on the end here, bam, went right on. I was kind of surprised. It's probably better than beating it with a piece of pipe too. Less chance of damaging it with a piece of plastic. Okay, all back together. Got the new bearing on there. Got the bolt back in there. Wasn't quite sure of the torque specs on that, but if you have Superman setting on your torque wrench, I would say that's probably a safe bet, because I cranked on it with it's like a 2-foot breaker bar. Use that, got it all the way tight with the impact, and then went ahead and wrenched on it with that, and it did not budge. So it's back on. Time to put it back in the truck. Okay, when you go to put this back together, I recommend doing the front part up on the transfer case first, so you can again put it in neutral, spin the drive shaft, get to the bolts a lot easier, so you can get them torqued on there. And then for the final connection over here, leave it in neutral, and then that way you can spin the drive shaft whatever direction you need it. Line it up with the U-joints on the rear portion of the drive shaft, and get those the clamps back on there. Bolt that back up to the frame over here at the top, and then should be good to go. And there she is, boys and girls, all back in place. Wonderful fucking thing. One thing I freaked out about, and it took me a second to realize, there's a little clip here. There's clips. There's one on each side. Well, they weren't quite lining up with the holes in the new bearing, and I thought, oh shit, they gave me the wrong bearing. Well, then I realized, well, where's the other one? I can't tell what the hell's going on here. But anyway, the one on the other side wasn't quite lining up, and I realized they slide in and out. So I slid that clip over where it needed to be, and ended my panic attack because that would have sucked. But anyhow, there it is, back in. Give her a test drive. Hopefully my vibration problems are gone and it isn't something completely different, because, you know, it was a lot of work and about $70 worth of parts. So thank you very much, and see you on the next one.